For more than 25 years, ProFab in Oklahoma City has precision-machined complex components for aircraft.
We're making parts for the CH-47 aircraft on this machine.
Some of its 150 employees are highly skilled machinists earning six-figure salaries. 70 to 80% of its work comes from multi-year defense contracts, according to Marketing Director Gordon Gurn.
Most of our contracts are 5-year contracts, and they're depending on what the government's doing and what the funding is, depends on how much those actually add up to. But they're substantial for our state.
Defense contracting brings billions of dollars into Oklahoma's economy, $5.6 billion in 2010. The total for 2011 is still being tallied.
Depending on the funding that is available is related to what purchase orders we get from our prime contractors like Lockheed and Boeing. And when they get cut back, we immediately feel the effects of that. For instance, on the Joint Strike Fighter, which ProFab builds a lot of parts for, we've seen our work actually dramatically get cut. We were planning to be building a plane a day for that aircraft, parts for that aircraft. We're doing, let's see, about 2 planes a month.
Defense spending cuts also put on hold ProFab's plans to triple its workforce. It's also slowing down Ron Smith's dry cleaning business, which has had contracts with Fort Sill for 9 years.
We do all the linen, pillows, sleeping bags, blankets, and some uniform stuff for the basic training and AIT here at Fort Sill, and special units that travel through, going to war and whatever.
Military laundry accounts for 60% of Smith's business. The drawdown of troops means fewer soldiers will go through basic training.
The last 2 years has been tremendous, and now we're heading down because the wars are heading to end and the Army's going to cut down. And
Smith expects reductions in military spending will affect his next contract with Fort Sill, but not his 35 employees because his equipment is paid off.
If we were doing capital investments, big investments, then it would be really tough during this down.
The drawdown will affect other jobs, according to Bill Burgess. He's chairman of the Oklahoma State Chamber and serves as a civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army.
Well, if the actual number of troop postings inside the state, whether they be Air Force or Army, are reduced, I mean, that'll be one job that we lose in the state for every one of those soldiers or airmen that go away. So it could be a significant impact on our state.
Oklahoma's defense contractors aren't all anticipating hard times ahead. Barry Albrecht is president of the Lawton-Fort Sill Economic Development Corporation.
There's a lot of things you have to look at with the recent announcement of the $252 billion in defense cuts. Oklahoma will feel a little of that, but with that you also see opportunities. With the activities here at Fort Sill, in their involvement in cyber warfare, that's one of the top focal points in the future budget spending. UAVs, also a focal point.
UAVs are unmanned aerial vehicles, such as the drones used in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Designing and testing new UAVs is about to become big business in Oklahoma. It's because our state has one of the few places where companies can test fly their products.
Your defense contractors are always looking for places to fly their new systems. And some of the places that they have to do that are at Yuma Proving Grounds in Arizona or Dugway Proving Grounds in Utah. Those places are very expensive.
And crowded. Defense contractors don't like that. They don't want competitors seeing what they're testing. Tony Strickland with Atria Defense Group in Lawton says his company provides privacy for one client at a time to test UAVs in the restricted airspace over Fort Sill.
The restricted airspace is airspace that unmanned aerial vehicles can operate in because the Federal Aviation Administration will not let unmanned aerial vehicles fly in the national airspace where airliners fly.
Last year, OSU began the nation's first and only unmanned aircraft systems graduate programs to grow the workforce needed to design and build UAVs.
We're not just talking just airplanes. You think of the technology that goes into the sensor packages, the ISR, which is intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems, the data link systems, the ground-based systems, how to fly them.
And I believe it puts Oklahoma's students in a position whereby they have a competitive advantage to not only get that training and get those degrees, but also with the rapid rise of the testing, demonstrating, production facilities here in Oklahoma, I think that will give them more of an incentive to stay in Oklahoma.
But that's not all.
Over the next decade, over $94 billion will be spent in the unmanned vehicle arena, developing, producing systems for our government and commercially. So I think Oklahoma is going to be in a position to compete for a large portion of that dollar amount.
Oklahoma's low housing costs and low cost of doing business are attractive to defense contractors looking to come into or expand operations in Oklahoma. Northrop Grumman's Lawton operation is going from less than 100 employees to about 500. And Boeing is relocating more than 2,000 high-paying jobs to Oklahoma City. Although that could change depending on how Boeing is affected by Defense Department cuts. DRG is an Oklahoma City-based company that provides crew training and develops training software for a variety of Air Force aircraft. Its defense contracts total over $400 million.
The biggest challenge that we're facing is finding trained and skilled workforce.
Too often, DRG's CEO Phil Busey says he has to recruit out-of-state candidates because there's no one qualified in-state.
The biggest issue for us is the delay in actually filling positions that we need that are mission critical in performing and maintaining our high level of performance in our government contracts. The second is being able to expand our base. And being anchored here, we want to see those people come into Oklahoma because it's good for our economy, it's good for the local market, and then it creates ripple businesses. What I mean by a ripple effect, it creates small business support for us.
To keep defense contracts in Oklahoma, Busey says educators and defense contractors need closer relationships that can create more opportunities like OSU's UAV program.
Many times, the educational institutions don't quite understand exactly what our needs are. We want to work harder to create partnerships where the educational institutions understand what our immediate needs are, what our 1 to 5 year needs are, so that they can actually start to create curriculums that will match with our needs. And this is an area that we've heard from many CEOs, many companies would be really beneficial for Oklahoma to emerge as a training center, an educational center for the aerospace industry.
Busey says that in turn will encourage more companies to locate in Oklahoma. Companies getting lucrative defense contracts, even in a time of Defense Department cutbacks.